Okay, so we are
Wait,
on.
wait, hold on. Almost.
This webinar is now streaming.
Yeah, only streaming. I still. Okay, now I'm gonna. Okay, you could start.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Tonight is the April 26th AHRB meeting. We have three items on the agenda tonight. First one is 235 Palisade Avenue, a deck extension.
I don't see Nina yet, but I see somebody from Steve Tilley Architect.
Oh, okay.
It's Steve Tilley.
Hello.
Hey, Steve.
Hello.
Good evening.
How is everybody?
Everybody is good.
Good. So we're waiting for Andreas Hubner from my office, who should be joining you because he's got the drawings up on his screen.
I just promoted him. I think he's AH.
Yes, makes sense.
Hello there.
Hello.
Yes, I'm ready to share the screen if that's what we are supposed to do.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm just going to, Andreas, I'll just introduce it briefly. This is, in a way, this is a COVID era project because the message was a few months ago that they wanted to be able to have socially distanced dinners with friends on their deck. And the original deck that we did quite a few years ago was too small. So this is a large enough addition for them to have a socially distanced dinner. So with that, it's really the same construction method and the same materials, including some leftover materials. So, we're not using up a lot of new materials that we had from the previous project. And Andreas will walk you through it.
Can you see it now already, or is it? Oh, wait.
No.
You were sharing for a few seconds and then you turn it off.
Oh, where did I go? Oh, there. So, share. Where is my thing that I just pulled? Oh, there. There we are. Yeah, so maybe let's start here. I guess you're all familiar with Palisade Avenue, which is, I guess, one of the streets with the most spectacular river view, which is an important thing of this, a part of this project, I guess. So let's start here with the plan. So this is the residence, and this is the existing 8 by 10.5 foot deck that was part of this 2007 renovation that Steve was mentioning. And so we are just extending it 2'6" into 6'6" and 6'6" in both directions, which will make it about 240 square foot deck up from 84 square foot. And yeah, the beauty is, as Steve mentioned, that you really have space on that deck for several people to meet outdoor in and allowing distance between people. Another positive thing is that the deck will now be extended past the house, so you also have a view in this direction. And maybe to demonstrate this a little bit, the pictures that I have sent. I mean, yes, this is the view. Right now to the southwest, and this is how the deck looks right now, and so we would extend it past the edge of this house and then further into the garden. And yeah, so, and here you can already see it, but I have these pictures further up below. We're doing basically match existing of all details and materials and and colors. So maybe going up again. So here you see the deck used to go up to here, and so we're adding this. There's a little retaining wall there that we go a little inside to have still space for the foundations. These are all existing details from our 2017 drawings that have been adapted to the new one. There's a new foundation detail from our structural engineer. So we have a structural engineer on board here as well. And about the materials, this is just this. When here I said it's painted dark bronze. It's actually, I think it's black. We have to when the contractor is on board, we'll take an exact color match and match the color is. And then we have these bowed railing components, and that will be just match. We'll take off two sides of the railing, of course, and we'll try to reuse it and then add the deck that is new. And the decking is 5 by 5/4 EP hardwood that Nina sourced in 2007 from FSC source, and we'll try to do the same. And she still has like another 100 square foot in the garage that we will use, and then the rest, the other whatever 60 square foot we have to source. And yeah, these are basically the materials. Any more questions?
No, it's a very clear application, very
right, there's no ambiguity. Yeah. I mean, one thing I maybe want to point out here from the photos again. I mean, here you can basically see that you can't see the deck from the street. I mean, this photo was taken in November, so that most of the leaves are on board. But I mean, even a month ago, you hardly can see the existing deck, so you won't see the new deck much more from the side, from the street.
Yeah. Also, it's a what I said before. It's a clear application. The justification of a larger deck is very reasonable. Let's hear board members' comments. Dale.
I think it's a beautiful renovation, an addition. It looks great. It matches everything that's there. It looks perfectly good.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't claim the design that it has been done by, I guess, Steve and my colleague Carter from 14 years ago who did the
How
design.
about Brandon?
Yeah, I agree with Dale and you know, I would open it up if there are any other neighbors. But I think it's hidden from, well, it doesn't need to be hidden from the street because I do think it's tastefully done. So even if it was visible, I think it would be in kind to the neighborhood. So, and the house.
Paul?
Yeah, no, it's a handsome deck. And the fact that it's going to be a little bit bigger, I think is totally fine. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so I agree with all comments, including the just, you know, it's matching the existing character. The enlargement is very reasonable. It's in character and doesn't overwhelm the house. So I make a motion that we approve this application. Second, Dale. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Next item on
Have
the
a good evening.
You too.
Good evening, bye.
Next item on the agenda is 264 Clinton Avenue. It's an addition and alteration and pool landscaping.
Niall, can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I'm Niall Kane. I'm the architect for the owners, James and Heather Ryu. We're doing an addition and renovation to their existing house on Clinton. And I will share the screen here. Let me see. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, good. So this is the existing property. You're probably all familiar with the sort of the top of Clinton Avenue, not all that far from Hastings, sort of at the high bit of the road. And this is the site here. This is the existing house, brick house. There's this was an addition at some point on the front with sort of with the clapboard siding. We're not doing any alteration to this portion. We are doing a renovation of this sun porch area, which you see in the drawings. This is the west-facing side of the house where we are proposing the addition and a balcony and a deck overlooking the Hudson River, of course. What else? This is the southern elevation, and again, we're renovating this portion of the building. And this is the north-facing side, and we're not really doing any work here, although we are replacing all the windows in the house. This is just for some context. This is Clinton Avenue looking south, Clinton Avenue looking east across the street, and this is looking north. This again is panning around from the northwest side of the rear yard, west side of the yard, and the southwest side of the yard. So this is the existing house is here. This is the proposed addition in the back, and then a proposed deck. And we're also proposing a swimming pool at the sort of westernmost side of the property. Yeah, and we're doing all the proper drainage and so forth. We're also before the planning board for this. We've done the pre-submission, and we're doing the public hearing in the next couple of weeks.
So Niall, the planning board is waiting for our comments to this to get for the hearing, or any kind of response on our end, or just
I would think as is typical, if you had anything to say, you could certainly say it. I don't think they're waiting for any particular response. They didn't suggest that, but you know,
Okay.
if you feel so inclined.
No, I'm just curious. So
didn't-
you still don't have the planning approval.
No, we don't have planning, but we did go through the comments and we responded. So we
Okay.
assume that
Understood.
forthcoming. There was
Understood.
no major concerns, I guess, put it that way.
Okay.
So again, this is the first, the basement level rather. There'll be an exercise room and a little storage area. We're sort of redoing this patio. It exists, but we'll just repair it. This is the addition here. There's a family room. We're reconfiguring the kitchen a little bit, the existing kitchen, to open up onto the new family room. And then, of course, we're putting a nice, good-sized deck to take advantage of the river views. Upstairs, the master bedroom's actually here currently. We're relocating the master bedroom suite so they can enjoy the views. And then there's a cantilever deck, again, take advantage of the western views. We are redoing this little sunroom substantially, sort of improving it. It was never really done particularly well. So we're renovating that within the same constraints as the original sunroom. And then there's renovation inside the house as well. We are replacing all the windows. We did a little work on this house a few years ago when they have steel windows, and we replaced 2 steel windows which we're going to reuse. And then we're using actually LePage windows, and they do a simulated steel. So we'll have the actual steel for a couple of the windows and the simulated steel for the rest of the windows. Needless to say, the old steel windows aren't insulated or anything. They're in pretty bad shape. So this is the elevation. This is the rear elevation with the balcony off of the family room area. This is the cantilevered balcony off of the master bedroom suite. It'll have a cathedral ceiling with a little window at the gable end here. And this is the sunroom here. You can see it's redone and redetailed and so forth. Again, all new windows everywhere. And then we're showing a thin stone cladding that's actually as an add alternate. The base will be stucco, which is what the existing base of the house is, the brick house is. This is the section through the property, so you can see the pool below here. And this is the elevation from the rear, also includes the pool. There'll be a stone wall here, and if we do the thin stone on the house, it'll match the stone at the pool. What else? Roof is just existing. Will match the existing asphalt shingles of the house. This will be the sort of higher end hardy plank clapboard. Name escapes me at the moment, but there's a slide of it further on that will be similar to the front of the house. So the main body of the house will remain brick, and the 2 sort of pieces of the house extending east and west will be clapboard, which I think will work quite nicely. Again, this is the north elevation. This is one of the steel windows we're reusing, and the others will be sort of the simulated steel from LePage. Again, pretty straightforward section through the yard. What else? These windows are the same, but new, but I mean the same. They're not reconfigured from the front elevation. So it's just a section through the house to show, again, the relationship to the existing house. Sections through the balconies, through the cantilevered balconies. We are going to have a finished beadboard underside to these decks, and we're using the rain screen system. Not rain screen, what is it called? Anyway, drainage system that allows us to finish the underside of the decks. Just a section through the other direction. Again, I think it's pretty clear. We're just keeping the existing floor level here. We're dropping it down in the exercise room just so there's plenty of room to jump around without hitting your head. There's a section through the pool. Here again, just stone. There'll be bluestone paving on the pool surface. It's going to be quite low to the ground, just the maximum 30 inches. So there's no railing, and then there'll be some planting as well around it. This is also adjacent to the view preservation area number 80, I think it is. So we looked at the views. They're really not going to be affected at all. We looked at the view from the adjacent property on the east side. They'll maybe see a little bit of the ridge because it is, of course, behind the house. And then from this view platform, there really is no effect. There's, in fact, if you zoom in here, there'll be a slight appearance of the addition. And it is also somewhat lower. I mean, it's set low relative to the street, so there's really going to be no view impact. We did a few different studies here as well, showing the angle of the view, but it shouldn't be any issue as far as that view corridor is concerned. And again, this is just a little larger with these views to the west. And of course, the better winter view is shown here of the river. The existing fence will stay because there's a 6-foot solid wood fence at the north, south, and west elevation, and which is 6 feet, and then there's a stockade fence which is 4 feet. So we'll put on the proper hardware on the gates, and so they're self-closing and so forth to protect the pool area. Again, this is just an enlargement of those view analysis, which we're really fine on. Another one here, just showing that little bit of the roof would be visible from this view platform. These are the LePage windows. Will be black again with their thinnest simulated dividing light to sort of emulate that steel to a certain degree. There's sort of nice push-out windows. Whoops, what did I do? So we're looking at a kind of a palette of grays, sort of very light gray, white, well, not quite white, off-white, light gray, and the sort of a slate color for the windows. This would be the stone base and the bluestone paving, and this is the siding here, which is their higher end cementitious clapboard with a nice sort of thick profile for a nice shadow line. And we're going to wrap the corners, which I always like to do rather than having the vertical boards, which are never very nice. And then lighting, there'll be some in-ground lighting, and just a sconce for the exterior of the building in the back. We'll be adding some lighting, of course, all of which will comply with the village code as far as borrowed light to adjacent properties and that sort of thing. And that is it. Go back to the elevations.
And now, can you show me again the floor plans?
Sure. These are big files. So the computer takes a little while to go from one page to the next.
No, don't worry. So what I understand is, can you show me the addition? What?
So again, I think can you make out the hatches on the screen?
Yes.
I mean, hatched walls are the existing, of course, and the unhatched are the new. So really, this is the existing house, and this is the addition.
Okay.
And of course, the deck as well as the addition. So and then there's a little cantilever here. Well, not cantilever, but it's overhangs rather a bit over this basement addition. And this is where you access the balcony of the stairs here, or the deck versus the balcony. That should say balcony, I guess. The cantilever balcony at the master bedroom suite.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And board members, you want to start, Dale? Paul, Dale, Brandon, any comments?
I I like the fact that the front of the house is going to remain the same. I've always enjoyed the house. The fact that the silhouette and the brick is going to remain the same, and essentially the house is going to look the same from the street. It's a large property, so I think that the addition, even though it's a big addition, it's not too big for the property. So I think that and it's tastefully done. I think the fact that you have the clapboard in the front with that addition entrance, clapboard in the back, that's going to be a nice balance. I wish that they choose the stone over the stucco, the rear base of the house, but that's not a sticking point for me.
It's a bit of a cost issue, more really, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand. Like I said, it's not terribly visible. So yeah, the fact that they want a pool, I think, is great, and it's not going to be sticking up, terribly visible. So I think it's tastefully done. I think that this is a tasteful and attractive addition.
Thank you.
Okay. Dale?
Did you lose someone? I just see 4
Sorry,
on
one
my
sec.
screen. Oh, there we go.
The only thing I thought was kind of peculiar was the resolution of the windows on, I guess, I'm looking at the second floor master bathroom and bathroom A, and the resolution of the glass block window on that facade of the house.
Oh, on the other side.
Yeah.
Whoops. Some of that is existing, of course. There's a, oh, what am I doing here? I'm going all over the place. Hold on. Sorry, I went the wrong way. One more. Here.
There you go.
Yeah, there's a funny, I mean, there are some, God damn it, sorry, excuse my French. These are all existing. This is existing, this little slot.
Oh,
And
it is? Okay.
this is the existing window we're relocating. I mean, to be honest, it probably would have done it a little bit differently, but it's a beautiful steel window. So, I mean, this rhythm sort of all makes sense, of course, but so there is a bit of, I mean, you know, it's and these are all existing windows. So it's really this, I don't know, this was facing the rear, the west elevation before, but that's, so that's my explanation, I guess.
It just seemed out of character with the rest of that facade. That's all I noticed. And I noticed that the shower wall sort of has to interfere with that inside the planning. That your shower wall straddles the window and it straddles the awning window.
You mean this little, the glass block with the awning above?
Yeah, in the plan, your partition for your shower enclosure falls dead center of the window.
Yes, this is an existing window opening. And the brick is just, you know, trying to avoid, altering brick is always so tricky, you know, it's very hard to match mortar and so forth. So it's always going to look like a fill-in, you know, I was trying to avoid that. And the glass block kind of works nicely with the glass shower enclosure in terms of, you know, functionally, because the glass will be flush to the inside of the room. Yeah, and like I said, this is sort of, yeah, I mean, the existing slot is just kind of fun, actually, but that was there as well, a little glass block slot in the master bathroom.
Any comments, Brandon?
No, I don't have anything to add. I think it looks nice.
Okay. I have to say now that it's a very difficult house to complement, and especially because of the scale on the back and how it turns. Sorry, on the scale of the front that is presented and how it opens up to the let's say to the rear view or how it develops. Yeah, to the west. Yes, I think the elevations are. The west elevation is, I think it's a very successful elevation, very well detailed, very well proportioned, and it's not easy to have a deck over a deck, and in this case works nicely. materials are well selected, well detailed, well chosen. The proportions of the windows are very nice. I tend to agree with Dale on the, would you say, the north elevation. It's not as successful as the rest,
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
but you know, I asked to see again the plans because there is a setback, so maybe
Yes, there is a setback. Yeah.
there is a setback. So I think it will be fine. I think it's a very well put together set of drawings and very clear. Um, I really uh, I feel like there is no need for objections on our end. Questions, John? Do we need to approve this or subject to planning board? What's the logistics?
Yes, you can vote, you can approve it, or continue it, whatever your vote is, and pending planning board approval.
Okay, so if there is no other comments, neighbors, anybody, I think we can move to make a motion to approve it, subject to planning board successful approval, and I don't have any objections. Any seconds?
A second.
Paul seconds. All in favor? Okay, thank you now. Good luck.
Great. Thank you very much. Good night.
Okay, and we have the last item on the agenda, which is 156 Palisades, new building.
You can probably hear me now,
Yes.
Yes.
and maybe you can even see me now.
Patty, do you want me to put on David Kim and Michael Lang too?
That'd be great. Okay, which is it? Okay, so we were before you a long time ago. It seems like a long time ago. Maybe it was only a couple of months. On this application, when we were just starting to find a shape of it that the planning board felt comfortable with. We've taken it quite a distance since that time. The presentation I've got here is actually the one that we made to the planning board at their April meeting. We're on the agenda for their May meeting. At the April meeting, there were comments from a neighbor. I think the answers to the questions that the neighbor was asking were not difficult for us to deal with, but it brought us paying a little bit more attention to one of the concerns, which was that we had designed the building to set down as much as we could and put the garage underneath. And the result of that, as you can actually see on this cover sheet, was a fairly substantial retaining wall that wrapped around the property. The next, that was on Thursday night, the beginning of April. That Sunday, I walked the site with a engineer that I have a lot of confidence in. And he was very concerned about the cost that we were going to incur to do what would be about a 17, 18 foot deep excavation, which would need to be 10 feet away from a property line. We'd have to drive sheeting. And one of the concerns that the neighbor had was how noisy this was going to be and disruptive. And when we started thinking in terms of driving maybe 150 linear feet of sheeting to hold back the earth, with that being driven in with a pile driver, we could see that being something that if we could find a way around it, it would be a good idea. So what I'd like to do tonight, if it's okay with you and move quickly, is to show you what we presented at the last planning board meeting, and then show you what I think, and it's going to be your telling me whether I'm right on this or not. What really is a tweak. It's flipping the way the massing works on the site, so that the front stays looking very much the same, but in the mirror read, and basically moving the garage up into the back instead of down into the ground. So if I can move through it, you don't need that stuff. Here's the site plan that we presented to the planning board. just to get you acclimated, here's the sidewalk. We have a driveway that goes down from basically 108 to 113 and change to get underneath the building. We have an entrance that's in the middle of the building, and then units, 3 stories of units on the left-hand side. You come in the, well, I'll show you the plan in a minute to show how that lays out. I'm not going to take you through all that. We have a roof deck on the top that you can go up on. It's a great view of the river. A lot of conversation at the planning board, and I know Ayer was in attendance at some of them, was the idea of having a ramp come up for ADA compliance to be able to get into the building where the elevator is, so they wouldn't have to go down a driveway and come in through the garage. With a set of steps in the front, we enlarged the planting strip in front of that so we could soften it. And I felt like we were getting pretty close with the planning board at the last meeting. Here, basically, just really quickly with the plans, the garage was at the lowest level. Coming up on the first floor was 3 one-bedroom apartments, and then the second floor was 2 two-bedroom apartments. The top floor was 2 two-bedroom apartments, and then we had the roof deck on the top, the elevations, the front massing, a series of 6 and 12 pitched roofs mixed with steeper roofs, so bringing down eaves, getting heights down on the front, feeling like it was in keeping with the scale of the buildings that were adjacent. That was a major concern that people had earlier on the process. But here, if I look at this east elevation at the top, you can see this is our first floor with the basement garage below it. So we've got an excavation for the garage, then the excavation where we'd be building a retaining wall to get up to existing grade. And probably this is something that some of you guys might know a lot more about from the construction side of it. That'd be, you know, costly to do. Our client is very concerned with costs on the project. We've dropped a lot of units, so we're trying to make this work. You can see here too, same deal, a large retaining wall. The quality in the units in the ground floor would basically be, it's 10 feet away looking at the retaining wall, but still you feel like you're a little bit down in a well. So here's the front, just showing that again, you've already seen it. And then this is what we're looking at now, which is basically to flip-flop that. I'll show you a comparison in just a sec. But the idea here is the driveway's on the left. Instead of going down, it goes up. So the garage is still underground in the back, but it has, you do see the garage looking up instead of the garage door looking down. Everything flipped the same way. Major difference is we don't have the ramp. Instead of in front of this unit, we've got a kind of like a brownstone walk down. So this portion of the building is 2 stories high with the rest of the building stepping back from it. Same step backs going this way. And the planting strip in front, we actually have just about the same, maybe even a little bit more planting. And this actually, one of the concerns the planning board had is making sure that we had a very active front on the building. I think this actually is more oriented towards people using spaces in the front while still setting everything back. I have some SketchUp images I can show in a minute to show you how that sets in context. The layout is different.
Paddy, this is totally different from what we saw in the submission, correct?
Correct. So the submission was this stuff.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do, do you want to just talk about that first, or I don't want to have you go through a bunch of.
No. Let's just walk us through what you are trying to show us on.
Yeah. So this is, you know, the massing is somewhat similar. It's quite similar, actually. This is the garage driveway coming in, same number of parking spaces, but this is effectively, this is a story higher. We are excavating down 10 feet less. We've got 2 flats in the front, then two bedrooms on the second floor and 2 bedrooms on the third floor. Same idea with a roof deck on top. We're still working with some of that. This is all still in sketch form, so it doesn't look as crisp and it looks like it's missing lines. I think that's just the transfer from one computer to another. But the windows, the massing, the materials are all very similar. You don't have the ramp in front, but I feel less uncomfortable going up the ramp of the driveway with a door that goes directly into the lobby on the side, providing that same ADA compliance. And here's where you can kind of see how the two relate one to the other in terms of the flip. It literally is a mirror with some adjustments in how some of the steps work, so that it can fit better with the actual layout of the site. Some of the things that would be beneficial of this change is the owner of this property is also the owner of this property next to it. So this is all kind of one person affecting, one owner affecting himself. Whereas this is obviously a driveway next to the house next door. The house next door is actually quite close to the property line. So the idea of moving the driveway to the other side, I think, is a benefit. The idea that this feels like it's the existing grade in the backyard, I think, is beneficial to the extent of retaining walls here. And then the whole idea that this mast sets back further from the property line, so it kind of tucks in so that the people in this building looking into the back are seeing more of an openness in the back. I think that's also beneficial. Again, this is just the flip. These components are almost identical. These components are very similar, with the difference, obvious one, that the garage door is moved up. And then this massing is the same, except you've got that sunken well down in the front. These were the SketchUp. Now these are the same SketchUp we showed to the planning board. So this shows, this is what the planning board showed. This is consistent with what we submitted to you. And I think it'll show that concern as we get to the back. So this is looking up towards Cedar Street on Palisades, kind of stepping along. You see how the building breaks itself down with the decks, the porch roofs, somewhat similar to the way a lot of the houses on the street have other components to it. Coming around, now you're looking down, you're looking south on Palisade Street. This is coming around the back way, and this is that retaining wall, which you can see, the first floor is the floor that's down here. This is the second floor of the house. So what we would be doing is effectively not having this recess at all, and this would all just be the backyard filled in, which I think would be, one thing, it would be much less expensive to build, but another thing, I think it would be much less intrusive to the neighbors, particularly for the amount of construction and the length of construction, the cost of construction. Same deal walking around, seeing this from above. How it all works in. These aren't, this is a SketchUp. It's not highly detailed, but we are showing the kinds of material changes that we're proposing, and how all that works. And that would be the same, if we mirrored this, it would be, the difference in this would be, instead of the driveway going down, the driveway would be going up. The driveway, the garage door is actually further recessed into the building on the left-hand side from the front of the wall of the porch on the left-hand side to the garage door is 16 feet. So you could actually pull a car completely under before you're going into the garage. We wanted to downplay the feeling of the, the garage door. This is just a drawing that shows our context in the neighborhood. The idea, this is, the one where, as we showed to the planning board, we're stepping back on this side. The other one comes and does reverse, but you can see that we're back. This line is almost exactly the same on the side, so it relates well with the house next door. And it's one of the buildings that sets back the furthest in this section of the block. So I think it has all the same ideas of what the planning board has been asking us to do. But I think we would be significantly reducing construction. And I think that is all the stuff to present, and any questions that you have.
Well, it's if let me organize my thoughts for a second. Now that I have to look myself in the mirror, flip the proposal that we've been watching for a while. So let's make this on my end. I don't mind the flipping. But before we get into the architectural, let me just make a 2 or 3 comments. First, the whole issue of contextual numbers, etc., etc. All this, I'm not going to get into that. That's a planning board issue. There is a criteria that design criteria or design guidelines that we participated. It's been discussed. The closer you get to that criteria, the better, in my opinion. But you're here not to discuss massing or heights, or everything is being already spoken at length in multiple presentations in the planning board. So we can make a few comments. Of course, with this idea of the flipping is an idea that you're going to have to make a decision.
Yeah.
I certainly welcome the, what do you call it, avoiding excavation and pilings and anything that you referring to that will result in savings and conservation of energy and all of that. So I don't have an objection to that. The few issues that I'm going to refer to is we're going to, focus on the going back to the, let's say, the area between the sidewalk and the house,
Yep.
Landscaping, and to be consistent with the layering that were proposed on the guidelines, and the common elements of that, how the building sits on the street. Very important. When you get to that, you have to make a decision on which scheme we're gonna be commenting on, and then we get the specifics. What we discussed back then, I was welcoming the retaining walls, or don't retaining walls, like the stone walls on the street with the landscaping and the handicap access, etc. The materials that you're choosing are appropriate. However, I still, I will make the same comment that I made a while, the first time that we saw this, which is it looks like 2 buildings, the front and the back. And if you manage to somehow make it a coherent, coordinated front and back elevation, and also there is a lack of integration. There's too much rear elevation for such a small windows. I don't know why you're punishing the upper floors with such a small windows, or not extensions to the yard, or anything that you put all the energy in the front, but because of its location, the rear yards are seen from multiple angles, especially when you go down Cedar. You can see this building. This is one of the areas that you can see almost all the elevations. I will encourage you to have a coordinated 360 approach to this building. I even at one point said that the rear elevation is more attractive than the front elevation, but that's my opinion. The other thing is, the other element that I will question is the scaffolding. I call it scaffolding, just to be.
Yeah, it's clearly not detailed, but it's the idea of having articulated porches.
Yeah, scaffold. So it's porches. It's not a look. A porch is what you have on your right, which is a base, a porch. That's a porch. What you have here, it could be interesting, and I'm not saying it's an architectural element. I think it lacks detailing and lacks. It's a theme that is not being developed as a theme in the building, especially because you decide to have it on the right, on the left, and the middle. You have something totally different. So it kind of the roof they play against you. the roof lines and the pitches and everything. And then there is something very incoherent to the design, but you can, it's not that, I'm curious to see how to develop those issues, and and I see potential. But again, being that now everything is flipped, we have to see it on the flipping side, how it works and how it relates to the back, because
Of
now
course.
the proportions and everything is going to be somehow changed.
It
The other thing
changes in very subtle ways, but you're right, it changes. At the same time, the concept of all the things you mentioned, both good and bad, the character of the retaining walls, the stone, all of that stays the same between the two, and the porches on both are equally, undeveloped. But
yeah, which is okay. I'll take it with the undeveloped
right,
character, which is, look, I think I said it in one of the planning board meetings that I was looking forward to get this into our boards to
Yep.
to be able to start focusing to design development, let's say, out of the massing and into a design scheme that is
Right.
coherent. The other thing I don't think it's still successful is the all entryway. I'm looking at the image that you're presenting now.
Yep.
It's kind of not there. Please take advantage of the 21st century roof gardens, which is that's a feature that this scheme will benefit a lot. Also with the idea of having this roof with one of the most spectacular views in the Hudson Valley, it's something that cannot be missed. So it's still it's premature to make more comments at this point, especially when you have to flip the building and going back to planning board, see what they say, and then we'll start discussing. But I'm curious to see other people's comments. I guess we've been talking for quite a while on this, and let's say, Dale, you have, please. Dale, can you hear us?
You're muted. You're muted, Dale.
Sorry, had a little difficulty getting off of mute there.
Yep.
I agree with Yair's comments about it being extraordinarily developed on the front side and very simplistically developed on the back side, almost to the point where the front side overpowers the adjacent property in terms of its just the amount of detail and change.
Yeah.
Compared to the very simple structures adjacent to it on both sides. The idea of flipping makes perfect sense. I have no problem with the concept. But even the complexities of all the different roof lines compared to, again, looking at the properties adjacent, it just has so many things going on. It would benefit to have some simplification.
Yeah, David, are you on?
I will add to Dale's comment that the over articulation of the front elevation appears makes the building to appear bigger. There was a little bit of a scale issue, and might be the issue of this deck. So it's not a porch. Forgive me because I can't find a better term than scaffold. But if you,
I'll accept scaffold for the moment. It looks like scaffolding to me too. So,
I can't find another. But again, I will say scaffold, which is a term that could be developed into something very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop it at there, because clearly, if you leave it on the on a poor with poor detailing that is steel and just a regular railing, could be a disaster. But if you develop it into a very interesting scaffolding system, and I can give you plenty of examples.
Yeah.
It could be a feature that it could really make it the building very successful. But that said, going back to Dale's comment that the over articulation makes the two buildings on the right and the left look like small when may not be. The funny thing is this building that you're proposing, it looks bigger, but it's not. It's a small.
Right.
But that's.
I mean, some of that's also that we're not, we're showing these neighboring buildings and in very, planar, development. We're not showing windows. This building is actually more detailed and complex than what we're proposing. It's got all kinds of things going on. But I agree. I mean, from the beginning, this roof here in the middle over the entrance is a little bit of a result of conversations we had at the planning board. It's always felt too tightly juxtaposed to me for here. So working something out with that, I think, could help calm this a bit. I do think having this roof of the shed on the top, the shed down below, I think those both help this in a good way of kind of just making it not seem monolithic. And maybe some of that in it being introduced into the back would help. I mean, the reality is we've got, if you look at this massing in the back on the side, and then you go around to the back, it's actually the same concept of roof line. So the real difference back here, and these windows, these are bedrooms. We're trying not to have too many windows, but these are placeholders. The windows, even in this model, are not as developed as our drawings show.
I will invite you to put the four elevations together. Spread, and you will see that there is a miscoordination that needs to be addressed. But that said, I think if you go by the flipping model, I guess a lot of new things are going to happen.
Most definitely.
And so that's why I'm saying I'm going to hint about the directions that we will be looking at, and we will discuss it in due time. But let me hear Brandon and Paul that their opinions also are valued. Brandon.
Yeah, I got to be perfectly honest with you. I'm lost. And I'm a little lost, and I think that the west elevation, just kind of where I mean, I know that there's a proposed change that would completely alter the application in hand, but I am having a really hard time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for this one. For me personally, I think there's just so much going on, the bulkhead at the top and the middle and the different roof lines. I just think, I just want to be honest with you, because I'm not really seeing, and maybe it'll improve when you get to the other, when you flip it. But it's so complicated on the one elevation.
Yeah.
Just completely, I mean, it just is not appealing to me at all. So, and
just to keep the conversation going, that's why when I make the comment that the rear elevation, if you put it in the front, kind of you can breathe, because it's a building, for better or for worse. But when you have like an overcrowded, I wouldn't say overcrowded. I might be using the wrong terms, but it's clearly what they'll call over design, over articulation, and especially when you see it, everything. This building, it steps back 3 times, right? It's like three main planes. So what you see here is not necessarily the presence on the street of these volumes. it's not necessarily what we see in these 2D west elevations.
Yeah.
So, but again, I think you get the gist of what Brandon is commenting. I think it's needs work.
Yeah, I mean, just so that we're not, I'm certainly not expecting you guys to do what you just do with Niles, where you say you're gonna make a decision. This is really, what I was afraid of, and Ayer and I have talked a lot about it, is getting so far down the road with the planning board that when we come to you, we're having to retrace steps of fundamentals. So you guys, the input you're giving us is helpful in how we solve the issues that we're being asked to solve by the planning board. We'll know that we're not too far off with the two boards. I think the goal is actually to get where everybody's in the same place. And I think we can do that. It is complex. We had a much simpler design when we started, which needed, in the opinion of everybody, to kind of break itself down. There was even the suggestion that this should look like it was two separate buildings. So this all evolved from that thinking. And so far, it seems to have gotten to a reasonably good place with the planning board, not talking details in the elevations or the design, but in terms of how it was related to the street, which was, was a positive step. Obviously, changing the way the garage works is a fundamental.
I think, Patty, that the flipping is going to be a game changer, and not it's going to affect the way it's going to look. So why don't we hear Paul's comments?
Yep.
So it's important.
So I just forgive me, Patty, but I'm sure you've thought about this, so completely that maybe there's an easy answer. But why can't you have flat roof on the both the north and the south element of the building?
We can. We would prefer it.
Yeah, so would I. I mean, and you'd have more roof deck, and that's going to be, one of the great selling points of these units.
Yeah.
And it would be less incongruous. And for me, materially, again, I just want to make sure that there's, at the very least, the same material on the north and the south element. If you're separating the building in thirds, the north third and the south third.
Yeah.
At least same materials.
Yeah, everything would be the same. I could even see where the middle, if I were, there are other people involved in the design of this, and they're better at this than I am. David is on the call. The idea of, if I were doing this, I would not be trying so hard to make it look like it was different pieces. The earlier stuff we did was much more of a single building. The concern at that time was it looked then like a bigger building than, at least bigger than more than half of the other buildings on the street.
Well, remember that if we remember that was a much bigger building. Let's not forget that. When you started off, I don't know how many months ago, a year ago, when we had the walkthrough, that was a totally different massing. So look, everybody wants to see a prettier building, good design, an asset to the street. What we said before, the guidelines give a good, and the result of the guideline was about understanding the forces that inform the massing of palisades and trying to provide design ideas or concept for criteria to have some logics to it. We discussed it many times, and that results in the design guidelines.
Yep.
Which we believe it's a good tool to use. Layering is there. The details are yet to be defined. And I'm saying when I say detailed design, yet to be defined. Clearly, flipping it is going to have a major impact on the overall. But still, we have the flat roof, we have the slope roof, we have the back elevation that looks more of like an utilitarian building, like the Oceana building type, or other buildings in the area with the front elevation, which is kind of a different character. And if you can manage to unify, a coherent, what we're discussing now, a coherent massing and coherent building, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I hear, just so that I'm making sure I'm understanding. I mean, I've got the sheet up that shows 1, 2, 3 elevations, which in my opinion, look like relatively calm.
Okay, so you're telling me that the east elevation and the west elevation are the same building?
I'm saying that the north, east, and south.
Wait. I just said east elevation and west elevation.
I feel east and west look very different.
Yeah, what?
I think east and west look very different.
Okay, so that's my point.
And I think east, north, and south look like they're the same building.
I agree.
So I mean, I think a good idea, and I'm obviously not, I'm trying to put words that will hold up that aren't mine. So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like if we could get the west elevation to calm itself, to feel more like it works in with the other 3 elevations, we would be heading in the right direction.
Yes, I don't want to put give you the impression that this is the direction. I think that when you make a decision which direction to take, just take it and develop it, including, again, I have to say, the scaffolding. But if that's something that you want to develop it. I'm welcoming great ideas, but when they are developed and easy to understand. If you decide that the east, south, and north elevation are the direction that you want to take as designers and architects, and by all means, let's analyze it when it's all presented as one and flip with the right massing and with the right approval from remember, you still need the planning board approval. Any big changes on the planning will affect the design, mass, scale, details, orientation, window size, everything is going to be affected. So I don't know if we are up for directions. That you give us the ingredients, and we'll tell you if the food tastes good.
Yeah, what you've said tonight, I mean, it might not seem like it to you, but to me, it was very helpful. I mean, I had all kinds of different thoughts, and your reactions are consistent with what I'm feeling about it. So that means that I'm not, you could have easily told me I needed to make the north, south, and east more animated like the west, and that would have been different than I was thinking it should do, but that would have been me learning something. So the idea that I think we're headed in the right direction in my thoughts, given what you've said, I think that's encouraging. I think we're going to find that not only does the garage going on the driveway on the other side, not only is that going to be friendlier to our neighbors, I think it's going to help some other things. And the way this really looks to me is that this right side has a very simple look to it, if the left side had a very simple look to it too. And the only place we were trying to do anything different is where it needs to be different, because it's a staircase and elevator, and that was in the middle, and maybe that does have 2 roofs on it, and that was what was different. I think that would be a much simpler building that would look much nicer. I think the idea of these roof lines coming down really low.
I think that what you just said makes sense.
Yeah.
Looking forward to see it. Unfortunately, we can't see words, right? So
we can't. If I could get people to see my words, I'd be in better shape.
So the other comment I will make, the building at the corner, it's a building that I personally value,
Yep.
It's good to know that you guys control it, make sure that you respect it. Not only especially the base of the building has some history and precedent
Yep.
that it's worth keeping in terms of scale. And if you can tie the two buildings, if you guys control it, and you can tie to the corner and pick up some
Yep.
design, what do you call it? You can pull some direction from the next door building. Maybe everything will look coherent.
Yeah, I think.
I was just going to add,
Yep.
if you were to, since you're flipping the garage location and the drive location, you have an opportunity also to take a look at how the south side of the building relates to the neighbor and the porch and its own scale in
Yep.
that opportunity
Yeah.
to make it more of a friendly neighbor.
Well, make it look like they both are part of a larger building, or like a complex of houses of volumes.
These two or these two?
No, the other two.
The corner and this one.
Corner, yes.
This, yeah, this, I think the idea of not having
I'm-
to pay attention to that dash dot line.
Yeah.
And doing the landscaping and everything of this together is a great opportunity. This could be a fabulous courtyard between them that will be shared by people living there.
That's exactly what we're trying to say.
But
Right
I'm
there.
also suggesting that there's an opportunity to the south side,
To this one.
that there's some connection, or that there's some connection that can tie back that also.
Yeah.
Right now it's sort of being ignored.
Well,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, the most interesting thing of the south side building, or the building on the right, is the scale of the porch and the yard, and that's quite successful in that
Right.
stretch of the block.
Yeah. The challenge in this, in terms of relationship, is we do prefer taller than 8-foot ceilings, and I wouldn't be surprised if the ceilings in this building on the right are actually lower than that. We're actually starting with our first floor a little bit lower than their first floor. So, when we get up here, we're probably 2.5 feet higher.
Correct.
So it's hard to tie them together, but I don't think we need to tie them. I think maybe the relationship is maybe just a subtler one.
Yeah, but so when you flip it, okay, so the front of the building will be almost aligned with the facade of the right building, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And we don't have to cut down the tree that's in front, which was one of the concerns expressed. So that all could be good. So I thank you, unless you've got other comments. David, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, nothing.
Thank you, David.
You heard it all. Do you have great ideas of how to make it work?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
We'll look at the plans and then we'll figure it out. I'm sure we'll simplify it and make it look like a real building. So that's what we'll do.
That seems like a good idea. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
So this, John, is a continuation? This
Yes.
is a submission, so I'll make a motion to continue this application.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Seconds. Dale seconds, all in favor. Thank you. Good luck. Thank you, David. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
And I make a motion to adjourn this evening meeting. Any seconds? Brandon seconds. In favor. Good evening, all.